There we are, everybody. All right, let's see what we're doing here on the Facebook. I know many of you are like me. You've just gone back to Netflix and you're starting to look and see what Manx really is. Or Mank, whatever the fuck it is.
I remember when it came out many months ago.
Yeah.
And it got really good reviews, but you didn't hear a lot of talking about it. So
you didn't.
It's about the guy who wrote the movie House of Wax.
It's the guy. Yeah.
People don't know that it's about his personal story, and his son tells the story,
which is different than Stacks of Wax, which is what you used to spin all the time on CKLW. The platters that matter, the stacks of wax. Oh, I see what she's doing. Yeah, man.
I think that's going to do it.
All right. Let's rock and roll, Daddy.
Yeah. Did it. Okay. Okay. Ready?
Okay.
It is the Brad and Britt cast, our final one for this week. And it's been a remarkable week. And I don't want to make this all about me here for the next minute, but I just want you to know that if you undergo something as horrible as what I had to undergo this morning, I hope you do better than I did. I sneezed with my mask on in Costco today.
How did that work out for you?
There was nothing I could do.
I know you're there. You're defenseless.
You can't take it off.
Do you think that this is giving you insight?
Yeah.
Is this giving you insight into the suffering of others? It really makes you.
It really gave me great empathy.
I want to know what Joe Biden is doing for those of us who have to suffer through our own snot. What is being done? Why are you still making us do this?
I don't know, but it's just it's a terrible thing.
The top story, despite what you're talking about being, of course, a tragedy, is that health officials now worried, and they're sounding the alarm that we may be facing a massive tsunami of positive tests upcoming over people who are ignoring warnings that have been with us for like a year now. We have some terrible leadership from states like Florida, Texas, Mississippi, and Alabama, but not just limited to those folks. And it appears now healthcare workers in and around America who were able to breathe maybe the slightest sigh of relief now are going to be deluged with some positive tests, despite, again, a vaccination program that continues to see great successes day after day after day. It's being introduced to people who have to pay zero for, I think, what is going to go down in history as the most effective vaccination program of all time. Once it's said and done, when you look at what has happened, the massive rollout, the bad effects of the vaccine, which appear to be so small as to be statistically insignificant. Brad, we seem to be once again snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Tell us what's going on in America right now.
Well, I would say 99.9% of what you said is right. And we don't have to play this has been predicted for many, many weeks. The same doctors, now Dr. Rochelle Walensky, head of the CDC, Dr. Fauci, pick your Dr. Gupta, pick any of them. They've all said the same thing, that number one, we're not out of the woods. Number two, there could be another surge if we don't stay diligent. This is so pathetic that to watch what's going on in certain spots around the country with spring break and the rest, you just want to, it's run into a wall. But ahead, just take your head and go bang, 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 bang. We learn nothing. And I am completely unaccepting of they're 19. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They shouldn't be expected to know. Absolutely not. That's not acceptable. And I also don't accept why are their parents letting them go to, I don't accept that either. And none of that. It's just, we have a really, really stupid country in general. And by the way, it's not just us. Clearly, they've already done this in Europe.
It's a fair point.
But what makes it even worse is we watch them make the mistake. Mm-hmm. So what do? We just make the same mistake. Why learn from mistakes of others when you can go ahead and make the same error? So
if I had told you a year ago when we started shutting down things and stopped gatherings and such like those things, if I told you in 11 months' time we're going to have a vaccine with a massive efficacy rate that is going to be widely available to everyone. I know it's kind of staggered out and some folks are not, but for the most part, a lot of people are able to get it for free, not only through their local entities, but feds have set up a massive site here and other places where people are getting vaccinated in huge. And if I told you that, you would have gone, well, we will have this thing's ass kicked probably in about a year's time. And yet we still have a level of ignorance and obstinance that is going on in this country for some people. I don't know what the solution is, Brad. I just don't know. It's very frustrating for me. And if I worked in a hospital, I would be apoplectic at this point.
Well, obviously you don't understand the word freedom, Britt.
Freedom to die.
You just, by the way, have you seen the exchange today, Thursday, between and again, just when you think you've got it nailed down as to who the biggest asshole Republican senator is, just when you think that you're in the 100-yard dash, you're 99 yards and 35 inches, then another one comes along, and Rand Paul jumped back out front on this day to remind you what a dick he truly is, because he's got a thing. He's got a thing with Dr. Fauci. Okay, he's not going to let Dr. Fauci fool everybody.
He's got Dr. Fauci's number. He's got Fauci's number.
He got that guy's number, and he ain't going to let him showboat and get famous. Okay, right. That's what he's doing. That's all Fauci wants. That's all Fauci's been doing for 40 years. He tried to get famous off of AIDS. He tried to get famous off of Ebola. And now he's trying to get some more bling from people who are showering him with compliments and saying he's some kind of expert on this coronavirus. So Rand Paul says to Fauci, this isn't a live hearing. This isn't on Zoom or anything. He's really there. That Fauci still is seen very often double masking.
Yeah.
And Rand
Yeah.
Paul says, you're just doing that to showboat. You're just doing that to show off. You know it doesn't make a difference. You know it's irrelevant. He's saying this to Fauci.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the one reason, and I don't really care, I don't care if 10 million people die. That means I just want the Fauci book where he writes what he was thinking. All these times, people like Rand Paul went after him in public. I that's all I want. 100 million, the whole country can die. I just want Fauci left to write that book to tell us exactly what he was thinking, because he never takes the bait and goes at whoever is attacking him as if he is on Crossfire, okay, or some show like that. Reference to show not been on for 20 years. So Fauci explains exactly why double masking is still a good idea, even if you've had the vaccine. But the fact that Rand Paul was dying to be the clip of the day, he wants the soundbite of the day to be him, because he must have thought that Ron Johnson or Ted Cruz or some other idiot was getting a little bit too much attention here.
Oh, I can be a dumbass too. Stand back, boys. Hold my beer. That's essentially what he's doing, right? And so again, if you're a good conservative and you believe in the true principles and the founding fathers of America, you either go with Dr. Fauci, who in his decades of service to this country has, I think it's fair to say, saved millions of lives. I'm going to go ahead and say that maybe people can argue that. I think it's fairly clear that he saved millions of lives. And you can talk about what happened during the AIDS epidemic and you can talk about those things, but I think his record of service to this country is pretty good. Pretty good. Or you can go with the eye doctor from Duke University who had to form his own board to get himself board certified. These are your two choices. You can either one of those. Just pick one of those, Brad. That's what you need to do in America right now.
Well, I mean, Fauci does not have to
justify
his
no, he doesn't.
credentials, or
he doesn't,
or what.
But there will be a number of dumbasses who go, yeah, I guess he told Fauci, suck on that, Fauci. So they're gonna think that this is a huge win for conservatism. When it's a huge win for idiocy, is what it is. It's in stupidity. One of the great clips that's come out in the past 24, 36 hours is the clip of the guy, and I can't remember the name of the reporter, but he's in CNN and he's in Oklahoma, which is a deeply red state. And he's talking to a number of people, and many of them are like, no, not going to get the vaccine, not going to get it. And they're 18 years old and they're 50 years old. And they're men and they're women, and nope, not going to do it, not going to do it. And the guy's in a diner, because that's where things happen in Oklahoma, is a diner. And he says to one guy, he goes, well, but even Trump says you should get the vaccine now, and Trump got the vaccine. And the guy goes, Trump's just a New York liberal. I don't give a shit what he says. That's literally
right now. Trump is back to not being Donald Trump anymore. He's back to pre-candidate Donald Trump. He's back to he's actually back to pre-birther Donald Trump.
Yeah,
back when he went to discos and just dated famous women and would be on page 6 as Donald Trump, that asshole, New York liberal Donald Trump. So they're picking and choosing. I did see the segment.
It's very interesting.
It's done by Gary Tuchman, that's the guy. By the way, I don't know how much life insurance he has. I hope it's a lot, because clearly when you wade into these situations, you go into a diner in Oklahoma and they know who you are. They know you're the CNN guy, by the way, which apparently I'm sure is not even carried on cable systems in Oklahoma. They don't even know what they just know that it's the bad guys.
I saw it in an airport one time. I didn't care for it.
All right. And to a person, they're in lockstep with each other that they're not going to take the vaccine. Now, I wonder what's really going on there. I wonder if all the people really believe that, or whether groupthink and peer pressure kicks in.
Possibly.
Where if you're in an enclosed area with a reporter who's supposedly the enemy, even if you know better, even if you know you should be getting the vaccine and you're going to say, of course, I'm going to get it when it's available, when other people are saying, there's no way I'm going to get that. It's a plot. It doesn't work. It wasn't tested well enough. Donald Trump's a New York liberal lying about getting the vaccine now. And by the way, the QAnon believers think that the Fox News segment from the other day with Maria Bartiromo talking to Trump, where Trump for 1 millisecond says, I would recommend you get the vaccine, but it's about freedom, and he qualified it and did what he always does, which is be a complete fucking asshole. A phony, a fraud, and all that. QAnon believers think the Fox News interview with Trump was fake to force vaccinations on people. So you can't win the argument. It does not, even if you want to believe the best of the Donald Trump segment and say, okay, he recommended people get it. They're not going to believe it because because they think it was a deep fake video. It wasn't even real. It was somebody imitating Trump's voice. It was Alec Baldwin being Trump. So that's like when they keep moving the date for the end of the world, when they keep moving the date for when Donald Trump will reassert himself and become the president once again. It doesn't matter if March 4th goes by and nothing happened. It's now March 20th. And when March 20th comes and it doesn't happen, it'll be April 15th. And we know that. So now, even if Trump does a half-ass endorsement, I won't even call it that.
Yeah, it's half-assed, that's for sure.
But even if he does half-ass, it doesn't matter because it was a fake interview. It didn't happen.
Never matter.
Right? It's just like the Access Hollywood. That wasn't me. I don't even think that was me.
It never happened. So the people in Oklahoma seem to be stuck on, at least some of them are like, I just don't trust the government. And then if you take the tack that I don't trust the government, which is fine, and it's something that they paraded for a number of years, and then you take the tack that I don't trust private companies like Moderna and Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, for example. So if you don't trust either of those, what are you left trusting besides the QAnon message boards and 4chan? If you've made that decision, and I know your hero, Elon Musk, I know that he would never get in bed with government, even though he's been thrown incentive packages from state governments all over the place. And yes, he's been in bed with government and banged them pretty hard. If you take the tack that you don't trust the government and you don't trust private industry, even though the free market is supposed to be the thing that's important here, and the free market in great measure has been very effective in getting this vaccine to people, but they're still too stupid to put it in their own arms. What are you left with, Brad?
Can I interrupt you? The free market is not getting the vaccine to people. The government is getting the vaccine to people. Do not confuse one with the other. If there was no government, nobody be getting the fucking vaccine right now.
I get that, but at the same time, I think private industry is also, I believe private industry has played a part in this. So if you're siding with these idiots in Oklahoma.
No,
you're
I'm not.
You're on their side apparently.
Fucking Walgreens and CVS can't get their shit together. There's about four drugstores in the country. It's not private industry. And by the way, it should be noted, Mr. I want credit for Operation Warp Speed development. Pfizer got no government money, zero.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
So not only is the premise a lie, but the facts are a lie.
Exactly.
Donald Trump should have it called the Trump vaccine, because it's not. It's
so if you're going to take the tack that I don't have faith in the government and I don't have faith in a private company such as Pfizer, you're done. You have decided I'm going to die. I don't give a shit about my kids, my grandkids, or my wife. Although the one guy in the Oklahoma piece, your takeaway was the one guy in the grocery store who runs the grocery store.
I know what you're going to say. I know. Go ahead.
I wasn't going to do it. Well, what made you change your mind? My wife. Yeah. So apparently,
remember there's another guy who said, well, I get the flu vaccine every year, but I get the flu.
That was good too.
Remember that guy?
Which those people exist all over the place.
Again, let's see if we can keep remembering who was the biggest dumbass in this segment. You got one, I got one. I'm sure there's another one.
The guy who says that, and apparently, again, Macho America, which believes in eating red meat, drinking beer, and all sorts of wonderful. Apparently, if they're pussy whipped into actually being healthy, that's okay. That's a thing. So again, I'm beside myself. I would read all of these books about how great civilizations crumble, whether it's the Romans or the Greeks or the Mesopotamians or whoever it was, and you go, well, these people started just being stupid. And now I look outside my window and I'm like, they're practically driving the damn virus into your living room and begging you. They're doing everything but paying you to get the vaccine. And I think, is it maybe CVS or Walgreens is offering you a gift card? I don't know. I have no idea. Possibly they are. They do. They give you some pop for getting the flu shot.
I would get mine at CVS, but the tape they're going to give you, the receipt tape, you're going to be 15 feet long, and I can't stand it anymore. Those things are too long.
It's unbelievable. Again, when you look back in time in 100 years from now, I don't think there's any question about the success of the rollout of this vaccine. To have it out in the marketplace in 11 months, to have the effectiveness of it be as high as it was, to be able to roll it out to the millions upon millions upon millions of people around the world, it's going to be something to be marveled at. But yet there were people who they died of thirst because the water was right in front of them.
Let me throw out something, and I haven't heard it discussed anywhere yet, but I'm trying to figure out whether there might be if this is happening, then don't you believe it's possible that this is happening? Because apparently a lot of the back and forth hesitancy and then pushback over the AstraZeneca vaccine in Europe, where some countries are saying, hold it, don't take it. A few people have had some problems. And then the company and other countries are stepping up and saying, no, it's just fine, back and forth.
Right.
Apparently, a lot of the misinformation about that vaccine is coming from your friends and mine in Russia. Okay. They're doing a disinformation campaign against AstraZeneca because they want to get their little Sputnik vaccine in the arms of lots of people around the world and make money. And if that's possible by trashing what is a competitor vaccine, AstraZeneca, well, they're going to do it. So put that aside and just let's think about the last year of ebbing and flowing numbers of people who don't want to get the vaccine. And yes, a lot of it has to do with the stupidity of Donald Trump and Dr. Scott Atlas and herd immunity. Well, all the shit that's been flying, and the general skepticism against government and business and the big pharma and the rest. But what are the chances that the Russians have had their dirty little hands involved on a lot of social media trashing of vaccines and the idea of getting what are the chances?
High.
I'd say, what are the chances that it's possible that didn't happen? I'd say very little chance that that's not happening, because that's what they do, because it's such a low cost way for them to mess with us. They learned it in elections. They learned it in our politics. Why would they not do it with the vaccine?
This is Putin's greatest export, is misinformation and disinformation right now. I mean, he makes a lot of money off of oil and fossil fuels for sure, but this is basically what they do. And I know some people think that he's just such a fantastic leader and he's so macho, but I think
haven't heard a lot of that lately, but
not lately, but there was a certain period of about 4 years where I used to hear about how strong he was as a leader, and I used to hear it from the guy who was the president of the United States, Brad. I used to hear that for a few years.
That's not a prevailing thing now. There's not a lot of admiration for him.
There's not, but give Fox and Friends a couple of days. They'll get back on their feet, Brad. Don't worry about it. It'll all be there, and they'll talk about what a great, strong leader he is compared to this putz with Alzheimer's that's in the White House right now, Brad. I'm sure that's coming. I'm almost positive. For a number of years, we were so anti-Russia in the Republican Party, but then for the 4-year period there, it's like, what's wrong with that guy? I mean, he's done some bad stuff, but so have we. Literally what Donald Trump said. Am I wrong?
I'm not saying that, but over the years, Putin's approval ratings have not skyrocketed in the United States either, in spite of. Okay, but go ahead.
The Kremlin has angrily reacted to President Joe Biden's remarks that the Russian leader is a killer calling the comment unprecedented and describing the relationship between the two countries as very bad, Brad. In an interview with ABC that aired on Wednesday, Biden said that Putin will pay a price for his efforts to undermine the 2020 U.S. election following a landmark American intelligence assessment that found that the Russian government meddled in the 2020 elections with the aim of denigrating Biden's candidacy. When interviewer George Stephanopoulos asked Biden if he thought Putin was a killer, the president said, I do. So apparently Putin is a little less thrilled with the guy in the White House now than he was with the previous guy, so to speak.
Right. So it does not matter. That was then. Trump is history. Blah blah. It's what's going on now, and I just think that the whole vaccine disinformation campaign, which had a European flavor to it, we know. I'm just guessing has some kind of American twist to it. It's like the European versus the American models when it's time for the hurricanes, right? They always have the European and the American models, and I think Putin has his hands on both of them.
Well, it's what he does. He's in charge of a rusty old ship. That's essentially. Obama had a very interesting and colorful way of describing it, and talking about how weak the Russian economy was and how awful that it was. And it was basically based on fossil fuel and him and his little fiefdoms and stuff. And they're not a world power unless you give them that importance. They are a lumbering zombie ship full of rust at this point. And what they do and what they export best is misinformation and disinformation. They were able to do it so effectively. They helped get a president elected about 5 years ago. They were able to do that. So that's all that they can do right now. And Biden and Putin can wring his hands and talk about how unfortunate it is that Biden told the truth about him. But there's not a whole lot that Putin can do anymore, is there, other than spread this misinformation and disinformation? And maybe some influence in Syria and some other places in Iran and some other places.
It's all noise. You pull your ambassador. All that
yeah, exactly. That's the shit that they're down to.
We've seen that. We've seen that before. But you know what the great thing is, Britt? That every few years the world gets together and has a little thing called the Olympics, and we join hands and understand our common humanity.
That's right.
How we really all want the same things. We may have different approaches, but we all want peace, and we all want our families to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, and we all want to love each other. And whatever's going on between these world leaders, it doesn't affect my. What am I saying? I'm sorry. I'm just losing my mind there for a moment.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing that we're talking about. I did see a story that Donald Trump is interviewing several people to write a book for him. There's several writers that they're trying to sit down with right now.
See, now, just stop it. When he's the phrase "write a book for him," does that mean he'll just sit there watching TV and just put out a few random thoughts, and a ghostwriter is creative enough to spin that into something? Just random thoughts. Is he going to get interviewed for it by the writer, and then the writer will fashion some kind of thing? Or does Trump just want a book written about him, which there will be plenty, of which he will have no control over? Give me the more of the story, because
these are books that are going to be about his presidency, and so they said about 12 people. This is Jason Miller, the president's trusted advisor, saying that they're going to be sitting down with about 12 folks to interview. He's just such a whore for the publicity. Remember what Mary Trump said? Losing the Twitter account was more devastating to him than losing the presidency, right? That's what Mary Trump has said.
Right.
And I think she's right. There are more than a dozen interviews that they're going to be having the president sit down for, including with Maggie Haberman and some others who are going to be writing books about the Trump presidency. Now, as far as an official book coming from Trump himself, getting a decent writer to write such bullshit may be a little difficult for them, but I think that's probably going to be in the works as well, to try to get some sort of official polishing of the turd.
I'm still not clear on this.
Yeah, no, these are okay.
Somehow they think that they want to sit down with the legitimate writers who've written the books.
Yes,
and quote, get Trump's side of the story to them. as if none of these writers know what the hell was going on for 4 years. Trump's been holding back. He's been so reticent to say anything about any subject. He left it all. He left it all back in the closet somewhere. He wants to open it up and let you see what was really happening the whole time. Okay, so again, this is nothing. I mean, it sounds like something, but it's nothing, because everyone's going to be writing their books regardless of whether they talk to Trump or not. And by the way, Bob Woodward already did that. Okay,
Yeah.
he did that already.
Have we gotten? I'm interested to see what's going to be the definitive book about this presidency. I don't know if it's been written yet. I don't know if the Michael Wolff or one of the Bob Woodward books. I'm not sure what the definitive book of this presidency is going to be. I think it's out there waiting to be written. Well, I don't even know if it could be one volume.
But it's not going to be any different than anything else. There's going to be a definitive volume about the Trump presidency by someone that you will honor and respect and know they're shooting straight. And there will be a bunch of right-wing bullshit defense books of Trump that will lie and will spin, and we'll have a 50-50 split on that too, because that's the game. That's the game they play. You know, they're never going to cop to it. I mean, maybe when Trump's dead, it's possible when Trump is dead, we're going to get a little bit more reflection and a little bit more honesty out of some of these people. But I doubt that even his death will matter, because it's like, you know, we still have people killing in the name of Hitler. We still have we still have Civil War reenactments.
That's true.
Okay, so Trump may die, but Trump is never dead. It's going to be that way, right?
The Jesse Ferguson, who used to be a spokesperson for he was former deputy national press secretary and a spokesperson for Hillary Clinton, it highlights this survey from Navigator Survey, which is for the first time since this pandemic hit, a majority of Americans believe that the worst is over. 54% say that. 23% say the worst is yet to come, and 23%, as you like to say, did not understand the question. Going back to just November from the election, only 28% believe that the worst is over, and that 54% said the worst is yet to come. So those, in just not even 4 months, really, those results have flipped, and a majority of Americans believe the worst is over.
I know, but it doesn't matter what people believe or think about the virus. It doesn't get polled. Nobody asks the virus, how you doing? Because clearly the latest news of the last 24 hours is we've got at least 17 states where the numbers are starting to go back up. They're going back up. Okay.
If it was a stock, you'd buy it right now. You go long on coronavirus.
Right. So whenever that poll was taken, I'm sure it wasn't taken this morning. Okay. No. I'm sure it's several days old. It means nothing. It means nothing. I don't care whether you think because if you start to run around and you don't wear a mask and you want to take vacations that you don't need to take, and millions of kids are running around the beach, it's going to spread again. And the more we hear about that, the more we hear about new variants that are more difficult to detect even. Now we have a whole new strain of the virus that doesn't show up on the kind of testing that we're doing. So now we have an undetectable version of the coronavirus that's starting to move. So how people feel is irrelevant. It's bullshit, and it sets us up for more bad news. And, you know, we're waiting. It's going to happen. Who's going to be the first governor to turn the car back around? I told you, kids, if you don't behave, we're going to have to turn this car back around and go home. Who's going to be the first governor that's going to have to close restaurants again, or take it from 50% back down to 20%? And we'll have protests. We're in a cycle of stupidity
Yeah.
That's just beyond belief.
Well, I think
there's nothing we can do about it, because
when you have those guys
elite,
like DeSantis, and you have guys like DeSantis and Abbott,
who, by the way,
least,
they're bragging that their economies are doing great.
Oh, yeah.
And they beat it, and they were smarter than everybody
Absolutely.
else. They were the winners.
Well, they're in too deep. I think at least one of those guys is going to try, and possibly both of them will try to run for president. So they're in too deep right now to turn around and go, there's not a level that you can get to with those guys to go, we had 10,000 people die in our state yesterday. You want to rethink this? I mean, that just wouldn't happen, right? There's no way that they would go. They wouldn't. Well, yeah, maybe we should pull back a little bit. I mean, they're just way in too deep on this thing.
Well, and we know what the answer is always going to be in Texas. If Texas starts to turn back up again, it'll be because Joe Biden is intentionally letting in virus-carrying terrorists who are spreading it intentionally. We know that's going to be the answer. That's going to be the immigration problem for Texas. That's going to be
it's brilliant nativism. Not only are these people coming in to beat you, to rape your daughter, now they want to cough on you and kill you. That's what the nativist thing is going to be, right? These awful brown people are coming in not only to take your stuff and to violate your women, but they want to cough on you and kill your family too. That will be their take. And Joe Biden is all for it. Joe Biden he's in favor of this, right? That's going to be the take of Gregory Abbott. So and that's amazing. I'm looking at this story from the Tampa Bay Times that some of the things that they've done in Florida, like alcohol delivery from restaurants, they want to go ahead and make that permanent. That's going to be the great lasting effect of this pandemic in the great state, the Sunshine State of Florida, Brad.
Well, that's interesting, because up until now, the last year, in a state that's as prudish at some level as Florida, yet at the same time extremely libertine, depending on what part of the state you're in, right? At least publicly, because of the necessity and because of what is probably a very strong lobby in Florida for the alcohol industry. They got the legislature controlled by Republicans, a lot of them good Christian Republicans, to say, all that thought that it would be terrible if you got door-to-door delivery of alcohol. We're going to have to lift that because of the coronavirus and the threat to jobs if people can't drink enough and can't get enough alcohol, because the bars are not operating at full speed, and neither are restaurants. So we're going to let it happen. So now, supposedly, according to the poll you just read, and it's got to be even more so in Florida, they must think it's all over, everything's good again. They're going to let what was previously considered to be heresy to be permanent. And by the way, we always knew that they were full of shit when they were against it all that time.
It's true.
They have not let a crisis go without taking advantage of it, without letting it go to waste. But they did it in their own way. So,
and it is fair to say in Florida and also in North Carolina, I think every other state, there is a vested interest in the state to sell the product. We all have some vested interest in terms of control and selling the product and the revenue and all of that sort of stuff.
Well, and by the way, look at gambling now. Look at how fast sports gambling is spreading. But that was the end of the world, right? That was going to be the end of sports. Every game would be corrupted. The world would die if everybody could start to legally. And now you can basically legally bet on anything from your smartphone, right?
And that's the way it should be. And I think, for a lot of states that are dying for some tax revenue, and they've seen tax revenue go down, although you've seen some of the polls on that, and it wasn't quite as drastic, but in a lot of states and a lot of municipalities, even a couple of percentage points can mean, well, a couple fewer cops, not as many firefighters, et cetera, et cetera. If you go ahead and you legalize weed and gambling, you can make that money back, I think, fairly quickly. And I'm a little surprised that people haven't reached for that, but that's going to be something I think that's going to be more of a discussion to try to make up for some of this lost revenue.
Well, they're
going
reaching
forward.
Oh, they're reaching. No need to be concerned.
I'm not saying weed and gambling solves everything, and I'm not saying that there's not significant problems associated. For example, we can't seem to figure out what level of THC makes you impaired when it comes to driving. But, these are all things that over a period of time, we can figure that out. And in terms of regulation, but it would seem to be pretty easy to me to get it going. Apparently, there's a sticking point on treating dogs and cats via the internet. This is one of the things that's going on in Florida. They want telemedicine to happen, and some of the veterinarians are going, wait. The dog and the cat can't speak for themselves. We need to see them in person. We need to be able to see the dog and the cat in person. But they're actually trying to codify telehealth options for dog and cat owners. This is what's going on in Florida. Meanwhile, people are breathing on each other, coughing at each other, and infecting each other at spring break and at Disney World. We have to figure out if Fluffy's going to be able to go on a Zoom call with the vet to be diagnosed with a bad cough, with some dry mouth.
Well, it is kind of different with animals. And by the way, as a dog owner, who has had a dog that has had two major issues in the last year that took a lot of care and time and hands-on procedures, obviously it wouldn't have worked. I mean, you take your dog's temperature. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Again, welcome to the Sunshine State of Florida, where these things are being debated along with restaurant delivery of alcohol. Again, the important issues that are being handled by Governor DeSantis, perhaps the next president of these United States, Brad. Perhaps the guy who will be in the White House.
When you say stupid shit like that, perhaps the next president. I just love it.
He's going to be in the discussion as a nominee of one of the two major parties in this country. He's going to be, and you've seen it. He's in the top.
First of all, there's only one major party right now. The other one.
I wish that was true.
I
wish the Democrats barely got control of the Senate with two fantastic wins in Georgia, and the Republicans, I would just point out, they gained seats in the House during the last election. So I don't know if they're on their last legs as much now. We can talk about whether they're using dirty tricks, gerrymandering, and limiting the access to the ballots. That's true. But as long as they can still grease the skids a little bit, they're still a threat to democracy and a threat to this country. I mean, I'd love for the Republican Party to be so insignificant as to not to be a fly on the shoulder, but that's just not the way things are. That's not realistic at all.
They are the USFL of political parties. And who ruined the USFL, Britt?
Donald John Trump Sr.
There it is.
That's all we've got for this week, everybody. Some severe weather in parts of North Carolina, so stay safe wherever you are. And enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week.